How to use Autoflex in PractiCAD. Autoflex is a PractiCAD automatic that allows us to quickly route fitting assemblies from PractiCAD main trunk lines to PractiCAD grills and air devices. There are a lot of different features that this option offers, so we're going to go over them one at a time. To access an Autoflex automatic, we must first go into the Autoflex button on the PractiCAD ribbon. You will notice it's under the Automatics panel. We're going to click on Autoflex. Inside the Autoflex section, you're going to notice that there are 4 tabs, and we're going to have tutorials on each tab and each option inside the tabs. To give you a general overview, the 4 tabs are Duct Side, Route, GRD Side or Grill Side, and Selection. Duct Side usually talks about the beginning of the route. It defines the tap that we're going to use to tap off the trunk line and the options we have for that particular fitting. Route defines the options we have for the ductwork we're going to use to go all the way out to a grill. The grill might be 10 foot away from the main trunk line. So we might use Duct Side tap as a conical, and then we might say we need to route spiral pipe to get all the way to the grill. So basically the route makes up the distance between the tap and the grill. The grill side essentially is for connecting the main trunk line down to the grill. The grill might be at 10 foot and the main trunk line might be bottom at 15 foot. So we might have a conical coming off the duct side. We might have spiral pipe coming off the route. But then we have to decide how we're going to get down to the grill. We might bend flex off the end of spiral pipe, for example, or we might have to route an elbow with hard pipe down to the grill. So the GRD side will define the options at the end of the route. And the last tab is Selection. Selection defines how we're going to use this automatic and what entities are going to be involved. So that is the general overview of Autoflex. Now we're going to start with Tutorial 1, going through the duct side options. The first choice you must make in order to run an Autoflex automatic is choosing the proper duct side parameters. The duct side tab is where we choose exactly what type of tap PractiCAD's going to use to start the fitting assembly run. You will notice that you have 2 choices, rectangular neck and round neck. These choices run independently of one another. What you need to do is decide what type of grill am I running to. If I'm running to a rectangular neck grill, I'm going to check rectangular neck and then choose the proper tap parameter we'd like. If we're going to run to a round neck grill, we check round neck and then we choose the proper option here. Keep in mind that we can choose a round neck option and choose a rectangular neck option, and PractiCAD will run them both. For example, on the left hand side we have a round neck grill and a rectangular neck grill. We can choose to route one tap to one grill and a totally different type of tap to the other. For example, if I wanted to run to the round neck grill a spin collar, we could click on round neck, then go down to a spin collar accessory or spin collar catalog, and then we could say for the rectangular neck grill or the assembly over here, we'd like to choose a totally different tap, and here we're going to choose the 45-degree boot tap. So what that means is we can choose independent parameters for rec neck grill runs and round neck grills and run them at the same time. Once we know what type of grill neck we're routing to and have picked the proper selection, now we need to pick one of 3 options: duct, collar, or tap. The first option here is short for end of existing duct. Notice when we choose this option that PractiCAD removes all of the tap options from our window. The reason why is this option is specifically used when the tap already exists on the duct line. For example, notice right here that we have a squared around which is being utilized as a tap, and we would like to route it to the grill. Well, we can still use the Autoflex automatic to attach between the end of this existing duct to the grill by utilizing the duct option. So what we would do normally is we'd highlight the duct or tap we'd like to attach from, and then we'd highlight the grill. We'd come over here to the Autoflex icon, and then in here we would go under the duct side tab and we'd make sure that we pick for the type of grill neck we want, end of existing duct. And what that's going to do is it's going to skip the portion for selecting a tap, and it's going to pick up where the route starts. And there's separate tutorials on that. So what we're going to do here is press OK. And when we do that, you can see that PractiCAD started the route from the tap or end of existing duct and routed the spiral pipe route and the flex all the way out to the grill neck. The second choice for utilizing a tap is choosing to use the collar option. If you check the collar option, PractiCAD is going to use a PractiCAD spin collar accessory, not a PractiCAD spin collar fitting. We do that under tap. Spin collar accessories can be created in the software, and there are separate tutorials on that, and they can be activated with this spin collar accessory icon. Generally speaking, we only use spin collar accessories if we're not fabricating them. We can get a count of spin collar accessories, but we cannot download them to a plasma cutter. If we want to do that and fabricate spin collars, we create catalogs out of taps. However, if you are using the spin collar accessories, we can choose this option. Notice here that on my database, we have a collars catalog already built. And you can see inside what's in that spin collar accessory catalog by opening up the little plus key. Here you can see we have spins from 2-inch all the way to 24-inch that are pre-built. Now, if we choose an individual fitting, PractiCAD is only going to use that particular spin collar regardless of the neck size of what we're trying to route to. For example, if the grill neck is 18 inches and we choose a 10-inch spin, PractiCAD is going to try to fit something else to compensate for that difference, or it's not going to route at all. So generally, it's better to have PractiCAD select the proper spin collar size for you. To do that, you would create a catalog of spin collars, and then under the duct side tab, when you choose the collar option, you're going to select the name of the catalog you'd like to use. Notice here we highlighted collars as a catalog. If you highlight a catalog name, when you go to run this assembly, PractiCAD will go into the catalog and pull out the spin collar that matches the diameter of the neck you are trying to route to, and it'll do it for you. So you can have two separate grills with two different neck sizes, and PractiCAD will run two routes to both grills simultaneously, but choose the proper spin. So to represent that, we're going to cancel out, and then we're going to click on this round neck grill, which happens to be 12 inches diameter, and then we're going to click on this piece of duct. We're going to go into the Autoflex icon, and then we're going to run this assembly using a spin collar. So we're going to press OK. When we do that, you can see that PractiCAD has now chosen a spin collar that matches. Then it's chosen to run the remainder of the route. In this tutorial, we're only focusing on the tap. Now you can see if we click on the duct here that the tap is part of it. That's always a good indicator that you're using a spin collar as an accessory because it's part of the fitting it attaches itself to. Whereas spin collars as taps, they're separate. They're a separate fitting. The last choice for choosing the tap we'd like PractiCAD to use is choosing the option tap. Tap means that we would like PractiCAD to utilize a PractiCAD fitting or a catalog of fittings to tap to the side of the main trunk line. What we're going to do here is we're going to look down our choices. Notice that we've got a list of all the possible fittings that can be used as taps. And what we're going to focus on is the round reducer. We're going to be routing from a round or to a round neck grill. And we can choose to use a round reducer, and if we do that, PractiCAD is going to take the default sizes for round reducer and just make the round reducer's diameter out match up with the neck of the grill. Or what we can do is we can design a catalog of round reducers. In this particular tutorial, we have created a catalog of conicals. Now that is done in a separate section, and there are separate tutorials on building catalogs. You must know how to build catalogs if you'd like to use them in the Autoflex automatics. Here we have a catalog of conicals already built. And you'll notice that if we open it up, you can see we have everything from the 4-inch conical all the way down to the 6-inch conical. Now, if we choose an individual conical, it's not going to route correctly all the time. Just like spin collars, if you go to route a 12-inch neck grill and try to route to it and specifically say that you want to use the 8-inch conical, it might not route, or PractiCAD might try to use a strange fitting to fit that gap because you got a difference in size. However, if you choose the name of the catalog, which is conicals, and you select it, Practicad will go into that catalog of fittings and it'll choose the proper size catalog fitting that the diameter out matches the grill neck. For example, the 12-inch conical on my database happens to have a 14-inch diameter in and a 12-inch diameter out. So Practicad would use that. Take note that if your catalog has two fittings that would meet the criteria, in other words, if you had two fittings that both had the diameter out equaling 12, and we're trying to route to a 12-inch grill neck, Practicad will choose the first choice or first selection in your catalog. If you're building catalogs correctly and using Autoflex assemblies correctly, it is recommended to have just one fitting that matches each size neck in each individual catalog. So take note of that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, let's run this assembly utilizing the conicals. So we're going to exit out and we're going to highlight this fitting and this fitting. And we're going to come over here, we're going to click on the Autoflex icon, and now we're going to press the OK button when the Autoflex opens up. Remember, we're under tap, we had chosen conicals, and we're now going to press OK. When we do that, you can see that Practicad went in, and notice that it's a fitting, it's separate, it's a separate entity, and it chose the conical fitting directly out of our catalog. And we can see that by coming over here, by double clicking on the fitting and seeing the properties, you can see that the name of that fitting is a 12-inch conical, and it came out of my catalog called conicals. So it's routed the proper tap to the proper grill. Now we're going to explain the reverse tap option. The reverse tap option is simple. What it does is whenever it's checked, Practicad will flip over the fitting you use as a tap at 180 degrees in orientation. To demonstrate this, we're going to route between the rectangular neck grill you see here and this piece of duct. So what we've got here is we've got the duct side tab, we've got rectangular neck chosen, we've got tap, we have 45-degree boot tap, and we're going to leave reverse tap unchecked. Now we're going to run this route. When we do that, you can see that the tip of the boot is pointing into the airflow. However, if we undo that and run the same route with reverse tap checked, you're going to see that the boot tap's going to flip over. So let's go back to the rectangular neck. We're still choosing 45-degree boot tap, but we're going to say reverse tap this time. And now we're going to press OK. Now it routes the exact same assembly we have. However, it's flipped the boot 180 degrees, so the tip is pointing with the airflow. So usually this is used for return or supply lines. The last parameter under the duct side to go over is the add to neck size option. Add to neck size gives us the ability to size the width out of a fitting or the diameter out in proportion to the neck of the grill we're routing to. For example, on the left hand side here we have a rectangular neck grill that happens to have the neck width of 12. And we're going to route it from this piece of duct. And what we have in the Autoflex option is on the duct side tab, if it's a rectangular neck grill, we're going to route a tap, and that tap's going to be a 45-degree boot tap. And currently we're going to say that the add to neck size is going to be 0. We're going to press OK. And when we do that, notice that it adds a 45-degree boot tap, and the 45-degree boot tap's parameter for width out is currently 12. That's because the neck width of the grill is 12, and with the add to neck size parameter was 0, so all it did is match the width out of the boot tap to 12. However, if we knew that we wanted that boot tap to be 6 inches larger than the grill neck, we can change the parameter for add to neck size, and Practicad will automatically upsize it for us. So here we're going to say that we want the width out of the boot to be 6 inches larger than the grill's neck. So what we've done is we've re-highlighted both entities. We're going to go into the Autoflex icon. And now what we're going to do is go under the rectangular neck option. We've still got the 45-degree boot tap selected. And we're going to say add to neck size 6. And now we're going to press OK. And when we do that, you can see that Practicad has taken the neck size of 12. It's added 6 for 18. And now the boot tap happens to be on the out 18 by 12. The only other thing to mention on this feature is where does the depth come from? Depth is actually matching whatever the neck width parameter of the grill is. For example, the neck width parameter of the grill happens to be 12. Therefore, the depth of this boot tap is, as a default, 12. The width changes based on the add to neck size parameter, so the width out has upsized to 18, but the depth is going to match the grill. That'll conclude the section on the duct side tab. The second part in designing an Autoflex automatic is choosing the proper route parameters. The routing tab allows us to choose what fittings Practicad's going to use to cover the distance from the tap we chose in the duct side section to the grill's neck. For example, here we have a rectangular neck grill all the way in the distance, far away from this piece of duct. We'd like to connect them using Autoflex. We've already chosen under duct side that if we have a rectangular neck grill that we would like to use the 45-degree boot tap. However, that boot tap is not going to reach all the way out to the edge of the grill, so we're going to need Practicad to put rectangular straight duct in between the boot tap and the grill to cover that distance. So what we do is we go over to the route tab, and here we're going to have two choices, rectangular and round. What highlighting rectangular means is if we need to use rectangular duct, we should use specific rectangular duct fittings in specific scenarios, and there happens to be currently 5 different scenarios. And if we choose the round tab, we're basically saying that if round duct is needed, we should use specific round duct fittings in specific scenarios. So we're going to click on rectangular for this tutorial. Here you can see that we have 5 scenarios currently: straight, offset, turn, to round, and sizing. Straight usually means that we need to use fittings to get direct from a tap to a grill. Almost always we're using rectangular straight duct or round and spiral pipe to cover that distance. Offset means that if in fact the duct we're trying to attach to and the grill's neck are offset, so we need a transition or some fitting to break left or set right, we would choose that fitting over here on the right so that if that scenario happens, we do have the proper fitting in the proper offset. Turn we use if we need to make a turn. For example, over here on the left you can see we've got a round neck grill all the way out in the distance. If we wanted to attach it to this fitting, we'd probably have to come all the way out here and then make a 90-degree turn and go out to that grill. So what we would do is say if we're going to make a 90-degree turn, we'd then select the proper fitting we'd like to use in that scenario. To round basically means that we're going to go from rectangular duct to round duct, and therefore we'd be picking what type of square to round we'd like to use in that scenario. And sizing is classified whenever we're going to have a size change to complete the route, that we should use a specific transition and choose the proper choice over here. So we're going to go over all of these categories one at a time. The first scenario we're going to cover is the straight scenario. The straight scenario is dictated whenever we're going to run duct directly from the branch we're trying to use and the center of the grill. And therefore we're usually going to use rectangular straight duct or spiral and round pipe. What we have here are 4 choices under the straight scenario: use catalog, use default duct, use fitting straights, and use variable length duct. We're going to go over each choice one at a time. You can see here that we have an opportunity to pick out of a list of fittings in case we run into a straight run. If we have a straight run and rectangular duct is needed, we're going to choose to use the rectangular straight duct fitting. However, if you have created a catalog out of existing Practicad templates and would like to use a fitting out of that catalog, you can click on the empty space next to Use Catalog and you'll get a drop-down menu of every catalog you've created for that specific fitting. And then you can choose that catalog and Practicad will grab fittings out of that catalog for this run. However, in this tutorial, we're just going to stick with the original rectangular straight duct template. The next 3 choices are the most commonly used. The first choice, Use Default Duct, can be set to yes or no. If you set it to yes, Practicad will always use full length joints wherever possible. A full length joint is classified by whatever length you have set in your default stock options. Your default stock length options happen to be in the library icon underneath the ductwork options, and there are separate tutorials. Generally, for spiral duct, it's 10 foot, and for rectangular duct, it's 5 foot. So if you're using 5 foot coil stock and would like to have those pieces placed in your route, you'd usually set Use Default Duct to yes. It is very rare where this choice is set to anything but yes. For example, what we have here on the left is a rectangular grill neck and a piece of duct that we're routing to. And we've got Use Default Duct selected as yes. And what we're going to do is press OK. And when we route, you can see that Practicat has chosen to use a full length joint here, and it's also used a full length joint here. The way Practicat routes is it starts with the end of the duct line. So what it does is it puts the first full length piece at the end where the grill is. Then it goes back to the tap you've chosen and then starts routing as many full length pieces as you need to get back to this full length piece. If in fact a short piece is needed, you can use the option for variable length duct, which we're going to cover in a minute. So imagine in this particular case, we'd actually like to change the route a little bit. We would not like to have this 21-inch short piece here, and we'd actually like to add that length to the boot tap straight. Well, what we can do is we can use the option Use Fitting Straights. We're going to highlight both of our entities, and we're going to go back over to the Autoflex option. And this time we're going to change the route slightly. We're going to go into the Route tab, and we're going to go right here where it says Use Fitting Straights, and we're going to say yes. When you say yes, you're giving Practicat permission to extend the straights of the fittings. Fittings could be elbows, boot taps, transitions, whatever fittings we're using outside of rectangular duct. The way it works is Practicat will always try to use default duct first, then it'll extend fitting straights, and then if you cannot cover the route with those two options, only then will it use variable length duct or small pieces if you say yes. If you say no, it will never use a variable length duct. Generally, when we're trying to use fitting straights, I usually keep all three at yes. What we're going to do now is press OK and see how Practicat routes this time. Here you can see that it's actually added the straights to the fitting, and then it's used the default stock length, and it's removed all the small pieces. This is the most common method used when routing out to entities. The second scenario we offer is the offset scenario. Here we choose the parameters that we would like Practicat to use if in fact we run into an offset situation. To demonstrate this, we have on the left a rectangular neck grill and a piece of rectangular duct highlighted, and we're going to try to run an Autoflex route between the two. Take note that the center of the grill's neck is lined up directly with the joints between these two fittings. Since Practicat does not allow us to place taps directly on the joints of fittings and the tap must fit, Practicat is going to take whatever tap we chose for the duct side parameters and it's going to put it as close to this connection as it can possibly fit. Even if it does that, in this scenario though, you would recognize that the out of that tap or the center line of the out connection of that tap would not be perfectly aligned with the center line of this grill, which means we'd run into an offset situation. If we're going to run into an offset situation, Practicat will let us pick what fitting we should use in that particular case. So what we're going to do here is we're first going to go over to our drop-down menu and say if we run into an offset situation, we'd like to use a finished length transition. Now we're going to come over here and go down these parameters one at a time. First, we have the ability to use a catalog item or an entity we created from a finished length transition. Here we're just going to use the original. Next, we have minimal length. Minimal length is currently set to 0, which means this particular offset can be anywhere from 0 all the way to any number to reach the actual distance we need. If in fact we don't want the fitting to be a specific size smaller than any value, we can put that value in here. So if we set a minimal length 12, this finished length transition would never be smaller than 12. Most of the time when we put a value in here, Practicat keeps that value when it goes to route. Now we're going to choose minimal straight in. Imagine we needed to make sure that we have to have straights on this transition to roll it through TDC. So what we're going to do is say our minimal straights must be 2 inches and 2 inches. Now we've got maximal offset to width ratio, and maximal offset to depth ratio. Now there are separate tutorials that teach you exactly how these parameters work, and I highly recommend taking a look at it. Basically, if these parameters are set to 0, PractiCAD will be unable to offset any fittings. In other words, if you set these values to 0, you will never get a choice selected for offset. PractiCAD will always jump to try to route a turn instead. Quite often we keep these at 0 in this particular section. However, if offsets are going to be allowed, we need to give it the proper offset to width ratio. Here we're going to set it to 8 and 8. That's a very high value, and if you watch the tutorials on routing, it would explain that that means we should always be able to get a transition offset between two distances. Now what we're going to do is press OK. Notice when we do that, the PractiCAD has chosen the duct side tap, which is an angled boot tap. It has now taken the finished length transition fitting. It has given us the straights we asked for, minimal of 2 inches and 2 inches. It has maximized the full length joint, and it's connected a hard route. The third choice for scenarios is the turn scenario. Here we're going to pick the fitting we would use if in fact PractiCAD needs to make a turn to get out to the grill. Take a look on the left. Here we've got a rectangular neck grill we're going to attach to a piece of rectangular duct. We know that our offset to width ratio parameters are not going to be set high enough to offset a fitting all the way here. So PractiCAD is going to need to come out and make a turn. And if this situation occurs, we're going to choose what fitting we'd like PractiCAD to use. So what we're going to do is come over to our drop-down menu, and here we're going to say, let's choose a square elbow. So if a turn is needed, a square elbow fitting is going to be used. Once again, we can use a catalog square elbow if we like by picking from the drop-down menu here. We can choose the parameters for radius factor. If we're using a radius elbow, we could say that our radius factor should always be 1, and PractiCAD will modify this template to make sure the radius factor is 1. Then we can choose the minimal straight in and minimal straight out. We can say that our minimal straight in is 4 and 4 for our square elbows. Then we have the maximal offset to depth ratio, and there are separate tutorials on that particular parameter. Once we've chosen all the parameters we need for turn, if a turn is needed, PractiCAD will utilize this square elbow fitting. Here we're going to press OK. Notice that PractiCAD has started to route the angled boot tap. In this particular route, we said to use fitting straights. So you can see it's adding fitting straights to the boot tap, and then it's maximizing the straights of the square elbow as well to make sure that we get a full length piece of duct at the end. So we have here use default duct, yes, use fitting straights, yes, and we have for a turn the square elbow selected with minimal 4-inch straights. The fourth scenario is the 2 round scenario. This is the fitting that PractiCAD should use and the parameters of that fitting if in fact we need to use a square to round or round to square. Notice on the left we have a round neck grill, and we're going to attach it to a rectangular piece of duct. Now what we're going to do here is show you what we've chosen for duct side. Under duct side, we have said that if it's a round neck grill, we would like to use a 45-degree boot tap. And we're going to hard line to it, meaning we're going to use hard duct. So if we're going to use a 45-degree boot tap as a tap, and we're going to try to use hard duct and attach to a round neck grill, at some point we're going to need a square to round fitting. You can see here that it says add to neck size 6 inches, so we know the width out of the boot tap is going to be 6 inches larger than the grill's neck, and we're going to start with the 45-degree boot tap. And then what we're going to do is say under the route tab, if we need rectangular duct, and we will need rectangular duct because we're going to route from an angled boot tap, which is a rectangular fitting. If a square to round is needed, we're going to pick the fitting we'd like to use. So in this tutorial, we're going to come in and say, let's choose the finished length square to round. Now we're going to choose all the parameters, and they're very similar to the ones in the earlier exercises. We're going to say, do we need to use a catalog square to round? Here we're going to say no. Do we want a minimal length? We're going to say the minimal length of our square to round should be 24 inches. Most of the time, if we put a value here, PractiCAD is going to make sure that the square to round is exactly 24 inches. Now we're going to say for minimal straight in and minimal straight out, we don't need them to be set at anything. And maximal offset to width and depth ratio. Here we're going to set them to 1 and 1. We're actually routing direct to the grill, so the square to round should not offset at all. But square to rounds are transitions, and they can offset. And if you would like them to be able to offset by a specific width or depth ratio, you can put in the proper values here. Once again, there are separate tutorials on exactly how to use maximal offset and depth width ratios. Now we're going to say OK. When we do that, you can see that PractiCAD has started the route with an angled boot tap. Then it's chosen a squared around at the minimal length, 24 inches. It's switched it to spiral pipe, and now it's routed hard duct all the way to the grill. So this is a good way to demonstrate how to use the two round scenario. If we were to do this in reverse, from round duct to a rectangular neck grill, we would use a round to square fitting, the inverse of a squared around. The last scenario to choose are the parameters for the sizing scenario. Here we choose what fitting and the parameters of that fitting the PractiCAD should use if we have to go down in size. For example, on the left hand side, we're going to route from rectangular duct to a round neck grill, and that grill happens to be 12 inches in diameter. Now if you look over here in the Autoflex and take a look at the parameters we have, for duct side, if it's a round neck grill, we have stated to choose the 16-inch spin. So PractiCAD is going to use the 16-inch spin no matter what, because we haven't selected a catalog. So what's going to happen is, instead of using spin-ins and having PractiCAD select from it, it's going to be a 16-inch spin without question. Then on the grill side, we've chosen that for round neck grills, we should turn down and use an elbow. And we have not chosen the catalog for the elbow, and the tutorials for grill side are coming up shortly. Here we've said that we're going to use a 12-inch elbow to attach to the 12-inch grill neck. So if we're going to start this route with a 16-inch spin, and we've told it to end the route with a 12-inch elbow, somewhere we're going to have a size change. So if we've got in our routing underneath the round duct parameters, under sizing we're going to say let's choose to use a finish length round reducer. And we're going to say the minimal length is going to be 12 inches, so that we want this reducer to be no smaller than 12. Most of the time PractiCAD will actually use the value 12 inches. We're going to say minimal straight in and out. We don't need any minimal straight. And we're going to say our maximal offset to diameter ratio is going to be 1. And we've explained a little of that in the other scenarios here. So what we're going to do is press OK. When we do that, notice that PractiCAD does go and grab the 16-inch spin, and it has used the 12-inch medium pressure elbow, as you can see here. So to compensate for the size change, it's used the finish length reducer that we had chose. So right here we got a finish length round reducer. PractiCAD has chosen that out of the sizing parameters, and now the route is correct. The third part in utilizing the Autoflex Automatic is choosing the proper GRD side parameters. GRD stands for grills, registers, and diffusers. And what we're going to do is choose the connection that we'd like to use to attach the grill neck to the end of the route. The duct side parameters choose the tap at the beginning of the route. The route parameters choose the fittings we're going to use to cover the distance between the tap and the grill. And then once we have that duct sitting there in free space, PractiCAD needs to decide how we're going to connect the duct line down to the grill. The first choice we must choose is what type of neck are we routing to, rectangular neck grill or round neck grill. Just like the duct side parameters, we are capable of choosing parameters separate for round neck grills than rectangular neck grills, and PractiCAD can run multiple routes at the same time using different assemblies for the rectangular neck grills as the round neck grills. So you can choose separately and still run the same route. Once we've chosen what type of grill neck we're going to route to in the GRD side tab, now we must pick between one of 4 choices: duct or end of existing duct, elbow, collar, and tap. The 4 choices are very similar to the duct side tap. However, there are some differences in the way they're used. The first one, end of existing duct, as always, if checked, you'll notice that all of the tap options have disappeared. We utilize this in a situation where we don't need to use a fitting to route down to the grill. For example, on the left hand side here we have a GRD that happens to be underneath a piece of rectangular duct. We would like to tap a spin collar into the bottom of this duct and just route down straight to the grill. So we don't need one of the taps or fittings in order to get down there, and that'll become more clear as we go through the other options. Notice that on the duct side tab for round neck grills we've chosen tap, and here we have spin-ins. So that's what we're going to do as far as the tap that's going to be attached to the rectangular piece of duct. On the GRD side, we don't need to pick any fittings because all Practicat has to do is route straight to the grill neck. We don't need to turn down with an elbow, and we don't need to use a separate tap. So what we can do is we can choose the end of existing duct option whenever we've got grills directly under our fittings, and then we can run a scenario. Here we're going to press OK. Once we do that, notice that it's chosen the spin collar for the duct side tap, and then it's choosing the straight duct that we have selected under the route tab. There was no need to choose the GRD side in this particular situation. The second choice for routing down to the grills on the GRD side is the elbow option. On the left hand side we have a round neck grill. The top of that grill neck is at 10 foot 5 inches. And we're going to route to a piece of duct that's at bottom 12 foot. So we have about 1.5 foot difference between the two. So the duct side parameter, we've got selected conicals for round neck. So the conical tap is going to go here. Then we've chosen routing parameters, which are going to choose the spiral pipe that we're going to use for the remainder of this route. Notice under round, we have catalog, spiral for the straight section. So straight, we're using the spiral duct. So we're going to get a conical, then spiral. Now the route's going to bring that spiral up to the grill, but how do we make the final connection? Well, if we need to turn down, as we're going to do in this case, we can choose the option to utilize an elbow. If we choose the elbow option, Practicat's going to open up the entire list of possible elbows. And what we've done here is we are going to select the short adjustable elbows catalog. Now notice that we've highlighted the catalog name, and once again that means that Practicat's going to go into that catalog and select the proper elbow to match the grill's neck. There are separate tutorials on building catalogs. Building a catalog with the proper parameters is essential for using this feature. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to press the OK button and we're going to run this route. Notice that it picks out the conical, it runs the spiral pipe, and right here for elbow, if we double click on the elbow over here in the isometric view and look at the property box, you're going to notice that the name of the elbow is the short adjustable elbow, and it's the 12 inch. So Practicat came in and said, what is the size of the neck? It's 12 inch. Go into that short adjustable elbow catalog, grab the proper elbow, and then what it did is it started to route down towards the grill. And in this particular tutorial, it used spiral pipe. So the elbow option can be used for both round and rectangular duct. The third option under the GRD side tab is the spin collar accessory option. If we have a route where we'd like to use the spin collar accessory to route down to our GRD, we can choose this option. Remember, spin collar accessory options are not fittings that download to Practicam for manufacturing. Spin collar accessories can be counted and utilized, but they're not used to download to Practicam and manufacture. We pointed that out in the duct side tabs. We're just mentioning it again. Most of the time, manufacturers are using spin collars as taps. However, if you'd like to use the spin collar accessory option, we can choose it here. An example of where we might want to use this. Notice on the left we have two entities highlighted, the rectangular duct and the round neck grill. And we'd like to use an assembly in the Autoflex option that uses an angled boot tap, routes rectangular duct all the way to the grill and over the grill, and then we take a Practicat spin collar accessory and we tap it to the bottom of that duct and then run the rest of the assembly down. If we would like to do that, we can come over to duct side and say if we have a round neck, we'd like to use the 45-degree boot tap. And here you can see we've got it set to add to neck size 6 inches. So the boot tap's opening will be 6 inches larger than the grill neck. Then what we're going to do in the route is say for straight rectangular duct, we'd like to use the rectangular straight duct fittings. So Practicat's going to use a boot tap, then rectangular straight duct fittings. And now the question is, what do we want to do to complete the route? What we're going to do is in the GRD side, we're going to check this tab and choose the spin collar accessory option. And what that's going to do if we go to route this is Practicat's going to route an angled boot tap, then rectangular duct, and here as you can see in the isometric view, what it's done is it's put a spin collar right there, tapped to the bottom of the duct, and then it has started to route with spiral pipe to the grill. But the fitting right here where the cursor is, it's not highlighted, it's behind the fitting in the isometric, is the spin collar accessory directly from our catalog. So this is an example of why we'd want to use the spin collar accessory. It's talking about tapping to the bottom of duct that we are using to route to a grill. The last option in the GRD side is the tap option. The only difference between the tap option and the spin collar accessory option is that spin collar accessories are the only choice we can use for a tap here. However, if we pick tap, Practicad will open up the fitting libraries to us and we can use fittings to tap to the bottom of duct to route down to the GRD. For example, here we have a piece of rectangular duct on the left and we've got a round neck GRD. We'd like to route using an angled boot tap and then rectangular straight duct all the way over to the end of the GRD. Then we'd like to tap a spin collar fitting from an existing catalog we've created to the bottom of that rectangular duct and then route down to the GRD. So to do that, we'd go into duct side and we've already chosen a 45-degree boot tap for round neck. And then under the route we've already chosen for straight, we've got rectangular duct selected. For the GRD side now, we're going to choose the tap option, and then we're going to go down to our fitting libraries, and we're going to choose the name of the catalog spin-ins. And what that's going to do is Practicad's going to go into this catalog, select the proper spin-in to match the grill's neck diameter, and then line it up with the tap, and then tap to the bottom of the rectangular duct, and then we're going to route straight down to the grill. So what we're going to do here is now we're just going to press the OK button. You can see that on the left, they're both highlighted. And now we're going to press OK. And when we do that, Practicad routes an angled boot tap followed by rectangular straight duct. And then what it's done is it's used the spin collar fitting from our catalog. To demonstrate this, we're going to put this picture on the right, the 2D wireframe. We're going to highlight this particular fitting. We're going to double click on it. And you can see that it's coming directly out of our spin-ins catalog, and it's a 12-inch spin. You'll notice that Practicad has lined it up perfectly with the neck of the grill, and now the route is complete. The end cap option is an option that becomes available only when you're using the collar option or the tap option. Notice that end cap right now can be checked and unchecked. When it's checked, Practicad's going to ask us to pick a particular end cap. Notice, however, that if we check the elbow section, the Practicad will gray out the end cap. Same thing with end of existing duct. So the option is only available if we're using the collar option or the tap option. What the end cap option's for is if we're going to route rectangular duct off of a main trunk line over a GRD and then spin to the bottom of it or tap duct to the bottom of it, and would like to close off the end of that boot tap, we can choose the end cap option. For example, over here on the right, we have a rectangular round neck grill and we have a piece of rectangular duct. We're going to run a little Autoflex assembly where we use the 45-degree boot tap on the duct side, rectangular straight duct when we're in the rectangular, and on the GRD side, we're going to say if it's a round neck grill, utilize the tap feature and choose from the catalog spin-ins. And now we're going to press OK. And when we do that, notice that the opening of the duct right here is open because we never closed it off. If we would like to run the exact same route, but have Practicad close off that end with an end cap, we can do the same thing and check the end cap option. So what we're going to do is go back into the Autoflex icon after we highlighted our entities, and we're going to run the exact same route, except this time under the GRD side, we're going to check end cap and make sure to choose the end cap you'd like to use. Here we're going to pick the rectangular end cap. Now what we're going to do is press OK, and notice it does the exact same route as you saw before. However, it's put an end cap fitting, which is annotated by the tag here, at the end of the route. So you can choose to have end caps at the end of your route if you choose the spin collar or collar option. Now we're going to go over the add length option in the GRD side tab. Up until now, we have not been making a note to point out how Practicad is choosing to route up into the grill. Practicad has the ability to route assemblies all the way up to the grill neck, or it can go past the grill neck, or it can fall short of the grill neck. For example, we're going to run an assembly real quick and we're going to change the add length to 0. If we run a boot tap route assembly that we've shown in earlier parts of this tutorial, and we have the add length parameter set at 0, Practicad's going to run rectangular duct right up until the end of the duct meets the center line of the grid. So what we're going to do is we're going to run an assembly right now. Notice when we do that Practicad first couldn't complete the route, and notice that Practicad stopped the assembly directly at the center line of the GRD. What Practicad does is it runs rectangular duct or spiral duct depending on our route tab parameters, and it sends it all the way to the center of the GRD. Most of the time, we'd like, if we're going to route over the GRD, for the duct to at least go a little bit past the center line. So what we can do is we can put how far past the center line of the duct we'd like Practicad to auto route. This particular GRD, if we double click on it, happens to be length and width 24 by 24. So it's 2 foot by 2 foot. So if we would like to route the assembly automatically so that the edge of the duct meets the edge of the grill, we'd want to put in the value 12 so that the add length parameter would be half the size of the grill's length. So what we're going to do here is we're going to highlight both of our entities. We're going to come back into the Autoflex icon. We're going to run the exact same route we did before. Notice that Practicad always retains the settings of the last thing we've done. So every time we run a route, Practicad is going to save all the settings of that route. So if we go back into the Autoflex option, we can literally just change one parameter and then run the same route again. We actually don't have to scroll through each individual tab. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say add length 12. And what that means is Practicad should route duct from the duct side tap all the way out to the grill's center point and then go 12 inches further. In this particular case, 12 inches is half the size of the grill. So it's going to go all the way to the end. So we're going to press OK. Notice now that Practicad's routed so that the end of the line is even with the grill. If we were to say, let's change the add length parameter to 24 and run the same thing, Practicad would route the duct 12 inches past the grill in this particular case. So what we're going to do is go GRD side. We're going to change the add length parameter to 24, and we're going to press OK to run the route again. Here you can see that it's gone 12 inches past. So you have control over how short the run goes. Keep in mind, if you're using an elbow route that turns down and goes right to the grill, we don't need to choose an add length parameter because Practicad's going to route right up to the grill. However, if we're going to use the collar option or the tap option to snap to the bottom of an assembly, we might want to choose how far out this assembly will go. The side approach option in the GRD side allows us to choose whether or not we'd like to offset fittings to get to the GRD neck or use an elbow and a turn to get to the GRD neck. For example, over here what we have is a piece of rectangular duct that's highlighted, and then we have a GRD highlighted as well. Notice that the GRD is not lined up with this duct because we have selected this one. There's only going to be 2 ways to actually route to this grill. We can either put a fitting as a tap, spiral, and then turn 90 and down to the grill, or we could offset 2 elbows. Currently, Practicad only has the ability to either do a side approach, which is a 90-degree turn, or utilize 2 elbows for offsets. If you keep the side approach option unchecked, it's going to choose the offset route. So what we're going to do here is we're going to press the OK button to represent this. Notice when we press OK, Practicad has chosen the tap side, which is a conical in this situation. It's then picked out 2 elbows from our route tab. And these elbows happen to be 20 degrees. And that's because Practicad is basically taking 2 equal elbows and it's utilizing them in order to route the round duct in between. So side approach, if it's unchecked, you're going to get 2 equal elbows and it's going to route out to the grill and then continue with the standard GRD selection. If we were to run the exact same thing, but this time we're going to use the side approach checked, Practicad is going to route at 90 degrees. So we're going to come into GRD side, we're going to check side approach, and we're going to run the exact same route. Notice this time Practicad, instead of using elbows, has chose to make a turn or come at 90, and then it continues the rest of the GRD route. Now keep in mind there are times where you can't actually utilize both. The side approach most of the time will work unless there's not enough room to turn the elbows. However, the side approach where you use two elbow offsets, occasionally your elbow is going to be so far in the distance that Practicad will not be able to reach. So you can't always use it as an option. In this part of the Autoflex tutorial, we're going to show you how to utilize flex at the end of your route. Up until now, we've been using hard pipe or hard duct connections to connect most of our routes to our GRDs. However, if Flexbend is allowed to be used in the field, we can utilize it in Practicad as well. Notice currently we have a round neck grill and we have a rectangular piece of duct, and we have the flex unchecked. If we press OK right now, you can see that Practicad is going to route out the assembly, and after the elbow, it's going to choose hard pipe, and that's because we didn't check flex. If we would like to use flex after the elbow, we can choose that option. So what we're going to do is highlight the grill and the rectangular piece of duct again. We're going to go back into the Autoflex icon, and now we're going to check to use flex. So under the GRD side tab, we're going to check flex, and once we do that, Practicad is going to open up our different catalogs of flex. Now these options are going to differ from user to user. Here you can see we have a flex catalog created with flex from 2 inches all the way to 24 inches. And you can modify your own catalog, and there's separate tutorials to do that. If we choose the flex option, Practicad is going to ask us for a min flex length and max flex length. If we know we don't want the flex to be smaller than 6 inches, we're going to put the value 6 here. If we know we don't want it to be larger than 60 inches or 5 foot, we can put that parameter here. In this particular tutorial, we're going to put in 36 inches. And now we're going to press OK and run the exact same route. So notice what we have here. We've got spiral pipe, elbow, and notice that we've now got a little piece of spiral pipe as well. And the reason why is, if we double click on the flex, you can see that the flex parameter happens to be 36 inches. So Practicad has maxed out the flex that we can use. So what it does in that particular case is after the elbow, it's going to use spiral pipe. Now if you had chosen to use fitting straights in your routing tab, it wouldn't use spiral pipe because it wouldn't use variable length duct. However, if you state that you don't want to use fitting straights, which is very common because often you're buying your elbows, and you have a max flex length, Practicad will fill in the remainder with rec duct or spiral duct, basically whatever you've chosen under your routing tab. The Allow Flex Bending option is a very useful tool in the GRD side. If we choose to utilize flex, we can decide whether or not we'd like to use this option. It is designed to allow us to connect spiral duct and the necks of grills direct with flex. For example, on the left-hand side, we have a piece of rectangular duct. It's at 12-foot bottom, and we have a round neck grill that's at 8 foot. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to say to route using an assembly, we're going to choose conicals on the duct side, spiral duct for the straight duct to route to the grill. On the GRD side, we're stating that if it's a round neck, we're going to use an elbow. And even though we're choosing the short adjustable elbow, we're going to check this option, Allow Flex Bending. And what will happen is if the distance between the spiral pipe and the top of the grill's neck is less than the max flex length parameter, Practicad will just attach flex and it will bypass the elbow. So what we're going to do is press OK. You can see here that Practicad's run a conical, spiral, and because we said Allow Flex Bending, we've given it permission to just bend flex and remove that elbow. However, if we were to undo this and run the same exact route, but uncheck Allow Flex Bending, what we're basically saying is that we've been told by the job specifications or an engineer that we're not allowed to bend flex off the end of pipe. And we have to use an elbow to connect. So what we do is we run the same route. We have short adjustable elbows picked here. We're going to uncheck Allow Flex Bending and we're going to press OK. And what that does is it always puts an elbow first. Even though we have flex, and that flex you can see is only at 40 inches. We're allowed another 20 inches, but we can't connect from the spiral pipe to the grill neck with flex because of the job specifications, so we uncheck the option and we'll automatically get an elbow. So this is a very useful feature to have because you can turn it on or off depending on what your job specifications are. The last option pertaining to flex and the GRD side is the layer by fitting option. This box, when checked, will take the flex that you use for your Autoflex automatic and it will match it onto the layer of the duct you are attaching from. If it's unchecked, it puts the flex on the standard default layer that you have set in your PractiCAD layer mechanism. And there's separate tutorials on building layers and how entities go to them. But to demonstrate what this does, we're going to run an automatic from this grill to this duct, and we're going to keep the layer by fitting unchecked, and we've got the flex button checked. So we're going to press OK. When we do that, you can see that the flex has gone to an ML flex layer, and that's because we have ML flex selected as a layer in our layer mechanism. However, if we run the same scenario and we check the layer by fitting option, PractiCAD will change the layer of the flex to match the fitting we're routing from. So what we're going to do to demonstrate this is we're going to run the same exact Autoflex route. We're going to check layer by fitting. And now we're going to press OK. And notice you can see the flex is a different color. And if you click on it, you can see that the flex is on the miscellaneous fittings layer. And the reason why it's doing that is it's matching the layer from wherever the Autoflex route started from. Whatever layer the duct is that the Autoflex route started from, it takes the flex and moves it to that layer. So you can see here that the flex is on the miscellaneous fittings layer because that's where this rectangular duct happens to be. So the flex has the exact same layer as the duct it's coming from. So it's a simple option to use. You can keep it checked if you'd like to do it or unchecked if you would not like to use it. The last part in running an Autoflex automatic is choosing the proper selection parameters. Here we have the selection tab depressed. Underneath you'll notice there are two entities, duct and air devices or grills. And under each entity we have two basic choices, current selection set and interactive selection set. There'll be a separate tutorial on the automatic section. Current selection set means that we're going to run an automatic for the duct that is currently highlighted on the drawing. And the same thing would go for the GRDs. For example, on the left-hand side, you can see that none of the duct is highlighted. So, if we go to press OK and go to run the automatic, nothing happens. However, if we highlight our duct and our grills and then go into the Autoflex automatic and have current selected duct and current selected GRDs as our choice for selection criteria, when we press OK, PractiCAD will apply the Autoflex automatic to whatever duct and GRDs are currently selected. So we're going to press OK, and here you can see the automatic has run. Now one thing to notice is what decision does PractiCAD make when routing if two ducts are highlighted. This grill here could have routed up or to here, but it chose this one. And the reason it did that is because this duct was closer. Whenever you window select and you highlight multiple pieces of duct and multiple grills, each grill will run to the closest duct available. That is the way it works currently. To go over the other option, we're going to undo. And now what we're going to do is we're going to leave nothing highlighted. And we're going to go into the Autoflex option. And we're going to use the interactive selection. Interactive selection under the selection tab means that if the duct interactive selection and GRD interactive selection is checked, then when we press the OK button, PractiCAD's going to say, okay, you're going to run an automatic. What duct would you like to use and what grills? So here we're going to press OK. When we do that, you can see that the command line says, please select fittings to be connected. And then we can either choose individually which ones we want or sweep select an area and PractiCAD will route to whichever one's closest. When we've selected the duct, we can hit enter. Then you can see it says, please select air devices to be connected. So once again, we can sweep select or highlight the air devices we'd like to use. Once we've chosen, the second we hit enter, it'll run the automatic. So current selection set means highlight entities first, then run the automatic. Most automatics are structured that way. Or interactive selection, which means press the automatic first, then pick the entities you want to apply it.